Hey guys, this is Mr. H. Hey, I wanted to do a video on factoring polynomials. They have this on the Regents exam, and I wanted to give you guys the best opportunity to get your highest score and pass. So they have these kinds of questions, and I want to make sure you guys are able to do them. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get through this topic within the school year, but it's a pretty simple concept once you understand a couple things. But so I wanted to do a video, and hopefully if you see these kinds of questions, you're able to answer it. All right, so factoring polynomials. First thing we're going to do is just start by understanding what a factor is. A factor is basically a number that you can multiply together to get another number. So if I said, what are the factors of 6? You would say, oh, there's a couple. 1 times 6 equals 6, and also 2 times 3 equals 6, right? Now, we could also say, a -1 times a -6 is also 6, or a -2 times a -3 is also 6. So we could do that as well. But so we basically say the factors of 6 are 1, 6, 2, 3. And if you want to throw the minuses or the negatives in there, you can as well. Now, it's the same thing. Polynomials also have factors, or most polynomials have factors. So let me show you kind of what I mean. All right, what you see here, I have the function x squared plus 5x minus 6. It's a quadratic, and it has 2 zeros. It has a 0 at a -6, and it has a 0 at 1. Now, I'm going to show you how I get that. So let me go here. I'm going to go menu 14. Let me get rid of this. Menu 45, set it back. Now, I'm going to enter that equation. It's basically x squared plus 5x minus 6. And I do this. Now, I'm going to find the zeros. Menu 6, and then 1 for 0. So there's one of the zeros. And then I'm going to do menu 6, 1 again. And that's going to give me the other 0. So that's the confirmation. Now, the reason this is important is, once you have the zeros, then you know what the factors are. So let me show you what I mean. So this one is x equals a -6. All you're going to do is set that equation equal to 0. And the way you do it is you add 6 to both sides. And what you're going to have now is you have x plus 6 equals 0. And then over here, we're going to start with x equals 1. And then we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. We're going to have x minus 1 equals 0. Now, the reason that this is important is once you have those equations set to 0, you know what the factors are. So the factors for this would be x plus 6 times x minus 1. Those are the two factors. The factors are basically the zeros flipped. So here's the way I like to think about it. Every coin has two sides, a heads and a tails. If you see the heads, you know the other side has to be tails. If you see the tails, you know the other side has to be heads. The same thing, when you see a 0, you also know what the factors are going to be. And if you see the factors, or if you know the factors, you also know what the zeros are going to be. So basically, once you know one or the other, you should be able to tell me. If I give you the factors, you should be able to tell me the zeros. If I give you the zeros, you should be able to tell me the factors. So now, let's go to an actual question. Now, this one came from a Regents exam, the one that was given this year. They said factor 36 minus 4x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this into a function, and then we're going to graph it. But before we graph it, and the only thing that's a little different is that we got to make sure we get the greatest common factor between the two terms. We need the greatest common factor between those two terms. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go, okay, I got 36 and I got a -4 here. What's the greatest common factor? So there's a key on the calculator that you can use. Let me go here. Let me get rid of this so I can show you how I got there. So from here, you go menu, you're going to go to number, and you're going to go to number 5. It's the greatest common divisor. What I'm going to put in there is I'm going to put in 4, And then I'm going to put, you got to put a comma in between and then the other number that you want to know what the greatest common factor or greatest common divisor is. So the greatest common factor between these two numbers, 4 and 36, is 4. So if I go back to my problem, I can write that. The GCF is 4. Now, I'm going to graph this function, and then I'm just going to find the zeros. So let me go. So I'll go here. Let me get rid of this one, menu 14. And then I'm going to type in 36 minus 4x squared, press enter. All right, so there are my two zeros. I'm just going to do menu 61. There's one of the zeros. And then I'm going to do menu 61 again. There's my other zero. So those are my two zeros. So I'm going to write those down. It's going to be x equals a -3 and x equals a +3. So if I go now, I'm just going to set those equal to 0. So it's going to be, I'm going to add +3 to both sides. I'm going to have x + 3 is equal to 0. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides on this one. And this is going to be x - 3 is equal to 0. So my two factors are going to be x + 3 times x - 3. Now, the only thing that I have to do is I have to account for this greatest common factor. So if I do this, I'm almost done. Now, normally that would be it. But if you look at this, this is really a -4x squared plus 36. But if we multiply this out, we should get this. If we don't, then that means our factoring isn't quite right. And if you multiply this out, you'll see that the signs are not quite right. So if you multiply this out, you're going to get 4x squared minus 36. That's not what we want. We want it to be a -4x squared plus 36. And the way we fix it is we just add a negative sign in front, and now we're good. So if you left that off, they might take off a point, but they might give it to you because you've done everything except you messed up on the sign. But basically, when you get done, you should check to make sure that whatever your factorized form is, it should match this. You remember how I've taught you how to check something. If you want to know if they're the same, store a number and then do your answer versus their answer. They should match. If they don't, then you've made a mistake someplace. All right, so now I'm going to do another one here. All right, so here we've got 4x cubed minus 49x. And first thing we want to do is we want to find the greatest common factor. I'm just going to look at the numbers. So greatest common factor. So if I go to my calculator, where is my calculator part? If I go here and I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to change the 36 to 49, 49, and press enter. All right, and basically the greatest common factor is 1, so they don't have anything in common. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to make it into a function. And then I'm going to find the zeros. So go here. And let's go menu 14, get rid of this. Now press tab, enter 4x. Now this is to the third power. And then what do? We got minus 49x. And then we're going to press enter. Now notice, the highest exponent or the degree of this function is 3. In this case, it has 3 zeros. So we need each one. So we're going to go menu. We're going to go menu 61, and we're going to do this 3 times. So here's the first 0. And then we're going to do menu 61 again. And this is the second 0. And then we're going to do menu 61 one last time. And now we got this. So we're almost ready to go. Now, when you get a decimal as a 0, you're going to convert it into a fraction because They don't like decimals. So you got to convert it to a fraction. So I'm writing the zeros, and 3.5 converted into a fraction. And if you don't know how to do that, let me show you that too. So I'm going to take 3.5, and then I'm going to do menu 22, and it's going to convert it into a fraction. So those are the two. I'm going to have fractions. So this is going to be x equals 7 over 2. This is still just x equals 0. This is x equals 7 over 2. Oh, this one is a negative. All right. And just like we did before, we're going to set all of these equal to 0. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add 7/2 to both sides. So we're going to have x plus 7 over 2 equals 0. Now this one's already set, so we don't have to do anything. X is equal to 0. And then here, we're going to subtract 7 over 2 from both sides. And so we're going to have x minus 7 over 2 equals 0. Now we're almost done. They don't like decimals at all, but they don't want fractions either. So the way we get rid of this 2 is we're just going to multiply this by 2. And 2 times 0, of course, is going to be 0. Over here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply this one by 2 and the right-hand side by 2. So this, if you distribute, this is going to be 2x plus 7 equals 0. This one is x equals 0. Same thing here is going to be 2x minus 7 equals 0. Now, we got it. There's no fractions. There's no decimals. This is our factorized form. We would say x times 2x plus 7 times 2x minus 7. That is our factored function. And it's factored completely. It's factored completely. Let me see. There, this is factored. Now the GCF was 1, so we don't have to worry about anything. All right. So look, almost every time when they ask you to factor something, you have to find the zeros, and then you're going to set those zeros. You're gonna set up an equation, x equals whatever the 0 is, and then you set that equation equal to 0, and whatever those terms are, those are going to be your factors. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you have a decimal, convert it to a fraction, and then move the fraction over and set that equation equal to 0. And then whatever the denominator is what you just need to multiply by to get rid of the fraction. And then you're done. All right. I'm going to go ahead and post this. I think I'm going to do a couple more examples just because I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with this. But basically, the idea is just find the 0, and the 0 is going to be the factor. You just set that 0 equal that equation, set it equal to 0, and those are going to be your factors. All right, let me stop and post.